Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download this Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, you can catch our other live shows that airs throughout the week. So you happen to miss it, you can go back and watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can always follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you like our program, you want to catch us on our podcast version, you can do so by subscribing to War or Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type this in those search engine boxes on those podcast platforms. You ready? WARR on Anchor. Once again, at War on Anchor. And while you're at it, just please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. Once again, at War Media on all social media platforms. WARR Media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour live extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly or stupid, I've given Lakina full power to give you fools to bill and be a boot.
Bye-bye.
I love when she says that. But before we continue, we must remind you that you also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate with the squad, give the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download Sports Zone Chicago. If you don't have a Roku TV, you have a bunch of handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your personal PC like Lakina's using right now, or your Chromebook like I'm using right now. Just go into the Google Play Store and download their Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anywhere and everywhere, you can listen to us and watch us anytime you want, whether it's now, new time. I know it's a little rainy here in this area. I know it's been, crazy weather all over most parts out west in the last few weeks. So you guys can kind of check us out if you want to kind of kill some time, whether it's, now or at 3 in the morning. So we're going to get right to it. And, we have a busy show ahead here on Second City Sports. Our last edition of Old School TV Monday Black History Edition. We'll get to, a show that you guys will know and love in just a little bit. But right now we're going to do our basketball power hour. We're going to start with the Bulls. And look, Pat Beverly, I know people want to, I know people want to say you should be running for mayor now. Mayoral elections are here tomorrow. Tuesday here. But even still, I mean, you tell that, this... He kind of has given a spark to this team. They had no trouble against Brooklyn. We'll get to that game in a second. But yesterday, they had a solid showing against the Wizards. They've been the Wizards have been playing back and forth and had some good battles and such. I know they were out without Kristaps Porzingis. I know I'm talking about the Wizards, and they showed a little bit of that same Bulls team. Back in the bad habits. They were only 8 for 20 from 3. But they went on a little bit of a run. They outscored the Wizards 28-15. But you can tell that there's definitely more energy, more excitement with this team. I mean, DeRozan had 29 points. Zach led the way with also we're representing him with 27. Vooch had another double-double with 16 and 13 boards. I mean, look, I'm not going to say this team is going to make the playoffs, but they're still right there in the thick of it. And you can tell that, yeah, Pat Bev only had one assist in 26 minutes, but you know what? Hey, you can tell that he's definitely making a difference in his team, at least so far.
Yeah, first give him credit for bringing new life and energy into the scene. We talked about that on our last show on Friday, and you don't see it in the stat sheet, but you see it on the floor. You see it in the attitude with the rest of the guys. And when you have a presence like Pat Bev has, and you use it in the right way, it trickles down to the rest of the roster and the coaching staff as well. Number two, give Billy Donovan credit for this for sticking with this starting lineup that you saw on last Friday against the Brooklyn Nets. You saw it again yesterday against the Washington Wizards, which they're now 2-0 since the All-Star break. You have DeMar DeRozan and Nikolai Vucevic up front, and then you have a three-guard rotation with Caruso, Patrick Beverley, and Zach LaVine. That lineup was most effective. Yes, you faced two subpar teams, but these are the games you're supposed to win, especially heading down the home stretch towards the end of the regular season, something that this team has been lacking all year. But I really want to talk about is Nikolai Vucevic. I know his stat line wasn't the greatest on Friday because the Bulls were blowing out the Nets, but he had a nice game yesterday with 16 points and 13 rebounds. You could tell looking if you watched him closely, and great job by Will Perdue on NBC Sports Chicago's Bulls post-game live show yesterday. And he said this, you could tell that Nikolai Vucevic is more involved in the offense, not just because he's getting the ball in the right spots in the post, which we've been talking about all year. He's moving around. You can tell that Caruso and Pat Beverley are getting him more involved. He just needs a point guard to get him in the ball in the right spots. Vucevic is not just standing around looking for that open three-point shot. He's not just standing on the either side of the lane to get the ball. He's moving around, and his teammates are actually finding him. Once Vuce goes in a positive direction in terms of getting involved in the offense, the rest of that offense for the Bulls, I believe, flows because the ball has to move. Because we talked about this last year too, Lakina. Whenever Zach or DeMar has the ball, the team stands around. But whenever those two guys don't have the ball, you give Vucevic a ball, the offense for the Bulls flows. That's much better.
Yeah, and also too, Kobe White has 17 points off the bench, including some big threes that kind of kick off that 28-15 run in the fourth quarter. So that definitely helped them in that win against the Wizards. Now going back to that Nets game, I mean, like I really didn't watch too much of it because I thought that maybe the Bulls would get their revenge against the Nets. You know, they kind of betrayed all their guys, but yeah, I mean, yeah, Vooch only had 13 and 10, but he still had a double-double. Zach had 23 points. DeRozan had 17, but it was actually their bench guys. I mean, P. Will had 17 points off the bench. Dalen Terry, who we haven't seen too much of, but yeah, he had 11 off the bench. And look, some of that was garbage points too. Same thing here. But I think the competence of it. These are teams of the Bulls. Just imagine how much of a better record the Bulls would have if they had beaten these kind of teams like the Wizards and the Nets and the Pacers and those types of teams. You can kind of tell that Pat Bev has definitely pushed this team. Had to kind of give them a spark to this team. Let a fire under their rears. So you got to give them a little bit of credit for that. Now again, can it keep up for the rest of the season? Who knows? Gets a little bit tougher for the Bulls this week, but I'm feeling pretty good about this team right now, and excuse me, and I feel like they're starting to kind of turn the corner. We're finally seeing the Bulls team that we expected to see earlier this season. I know they got a tough one tomorrow against the Raptors, in Toronto. I mean, they're very smart. That's a very smart and savvy team. So, it's going to be interesting to see how that game goes. But yeah, I think, look, take it one game at a time. I know there's that, tanking crowd that said, well, they should just go ahead and tank. That's not going to happen because you're seeing that some of the teams in the East are starting to kind of fall back to earth a little bit. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I think the Bulls are kind of like at a point where they can kind of make a little bit of a move and get to perhaps maybe even beyond that 10th seed in the East.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially with their bench production. You mentioned Kobe White had a great weekend, and we talked about him on our last show as well. I was looking for these key guys to benefit from the expertise and the energy of Pat Beverley. Kobe White was one of the names I threw out. And so Kobe White has been coming on even before Pat Bev was signed for the last few weeks. His production in terms of points off the bench has been phenomenal. I'm looking forward to seeing Ayo Dosunmu is one of the names I called out last Friday. I want to see his production go up. But Patrick Williams, I want to see his production. Can he take his game up another notch? I know sometimes he gets on himself, and he said it at times throughout the season that he thinks too much. He just doesn't react to go by his natural basketball abilities. I know he's 21 years old now, but some of the stuff he should be getting is starting to improve. And I want to see Patrick Williams improve from this day going forward to the end of the season.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, with the schedule of Bulls that have coming up, we'll get to the NBA, the rest of the NBA, because it was a crazy weekend in the NBA. But going through their schedule, we'll talk about the Bulls. Of course, I talked about they have Toronto tomorrow. Then they've got Detroit, and kind of like a 2-game road sort of thing, back to back. So they should be able to win both of those games. I say they should. Then after that, they have They should, like I said, they should. Then they have two back here at home. They got one Friday at Phoenix, hosting Phoenix, I should say, and against as they host Indiana. Then they go at Denver and at Houston. Then they host Sacramento again, and Minnesota and Miami. We'll talk about that last team, like I talked about in a second. So they got a home and home against Philly. Then they got to go at Portland, at the Lakers, and at the Clippers. That little little mini West Coast trip. Then they have the Hornets. I mean, then they have both the Clippers. Then they have LA again, and then they have Charlotte. Then they have Memphis and Atlanta. So they kind of have an up and down scheduling. They have like the top. They're scheduled in the top 10 of straight in the NBA. So you wonder, like, can they kind of turn the corner here and get there? But it'll have to wait and see. You just got to take one game at a time.
Yeah, so that's the only thing you can do. You can control what you could control right now, and like you said, win those next two games against sub 500 teams. That's something that you struggle to do all year. And I believe you'll be 2 games below 500 before you host Chris Paul and Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns on Friday. So this Bulls team has a chance to make a move. Right now, it's just you have to prove it to do it. So far, it looks good. 2-0 since the All-Star break. Hopefully, they can keep it going.
Absolutely. So you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown with you. Now, let's go backwards for a second. Send the rest of the NBA. Sort of a lot of weird things, exciting things, depending on how you look at it, who you're a fan of. Well, let's start with yesterday's games. We'll start with the Lakers and the Mavs. The Lakers were down, I think, 27 points at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to come back and beat the Mavs 111-108. I was turning back and forth from this game and another game. We'll get to that when we'll talk about college. But AD had 30 points, and I know LeBron, he said he felt something pop in his knee, but at least so far it doesn't look like it has affected him too much. He had 28 points. Dennis Schroeder had 16 points off the bench. So it looks like it's starting to look like maybe Lakers are starting to turn a corner to themselves a little bit. I mean, most teams, the Lakers probably would have just sort of slithered their way through and try not to freak out too much. But that's the largest comeback by a LeBron led team in his career, which is insane. And I think they were like teams that were up by that many were like 148 or something like that. I might have the numbers wrong.
Yeah, 0-138 before
138
yesterday.
something, something like that before yesterday. So what the heck happened? I mean, did the Lakers finally wake up? And it wasn't like the Mavs were taking bad shots; they just weren't falling. So in a losing effort, Luka had 26. Kyrie had 21. They had a couple of guys step up from the bench. Tim Hardaway Jr. had 17. Christian Wood had 14, but that was really about it.
One for the Lakers, AD did play like a madman yesterday. You mentioned on his offensive numbers, 30 points, 15 rebounds, but he had a couple of blocks in there as well, and he really stepped it up on the defensive end yesterday. But pay attention to these two names. Remember these two names going forward, and these two guys came in that Utah trade with Russell Westbrook. I'm talking about Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt had 15 points yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I know Malik Beasley only had 8. He had a great game the other night with 25, but those type of supporting players will definitely help out AD and LeBron, because we talked about it, Lakina, that LeBron James has been averaging over 32.5 points per game over the last month and a half or so, especially most of that because of Anthony Davis being out because of injuries. But if LeBron James and Anthony Davis both stay healthy and those supporting castmates still keep up with their play on the offensive end, it takes that much more pressure off of LeBron and AD. And also, too, on the defensive end, what about the player Mo Bamba? He was a joke in Orlando, not getting much playing time now. Since he's playing with LeBron James, his play's been going up tremendously, so he's making a big contribution as well.
Big contributions from all that. Vanderbilt was the one that kind of led that comeback for the Lakers. So that already to me, you're kind of seeing those utility guys. And I know Russell didn't play. D'Angelo Russell, I should say, didn't play yesterday, but we'll see if he can come back. It's not serious, thankfully, but we'll see if he can come back this week or maybe in the next couple of weeks. So they're gonna need him if they need to step up. Now, probably another big historical thing that happened late last night, if you guys had a chance to stay up, was the Blazers beating Houston 131-114. But that's not what I'm talking about. Dame Dollar had a career high 71 points. And if you took the over, I guess whatever the over was, I think you're feeling pretty good. We'll talk more about that just in a little bit after the break. But he actually scored 41 points in the first half. That's tied for the second most by a player in the first half in the last 25 seasons. Of course, Kobe had 42 in 03, March of 03. Kyrie had 41 and also in March of 2022. Of course, Dame did it last night. So he actually joins the only player in the history with 60 plus points and 10 plus 3-pointers. He had 11. He did that a few years ago, as I just talked about. So
yeah,
just a little bit crazy. So yeah, just an insane game. I got a chance to watch a little bit of this game too on this lovely device here. And what did you think about this Dame's performance last night?
Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch this game. I saw the highlights this morning. I watched another game, which we'll get to after the break. But Damian Lillard is one of the best electric guards in this league. I can't believe he's been playing over a decade now since he came into the league so young. But him, Steph Curry, from the point guard position, they light it up from long range, and he's been doing it his whole career. So it shouldn't be shocking that Damian Lillard is doing this. But I thought he would have done this a few years ago, but from other reasons it didn't happen at the time. But when he gets going and shooting like that, there's no one that could stop him. So Damian Lillard is not a surprise that he's doing this, but hopefully that the Portland Trail Blazers, for his sake and for his team's sake, they can stay in the play-in tournament race, because he does have some nice young pieces over there. But hopefully you can have other guys step in and step out, because you don't want him to become another Luka Doncic. He has to carry the team and he has to take off of a couple of games because he's that much fatigued for carrying the team.
Yeah, going to be very interesting to see what happens with that, because there actually are the dogfight in that Western Conference in the play-in spot. So we'll see what happens there. Now we're going to take a really quick break. More craziness and more great performances from this weekend in the NBA, and also from college hoops too, because we're almost at March Madness in a couple of weeks, and there were a lot of buzzer beaters this past weekend, but also too some great performances and great games as well. So more Hoops Talk coming up next. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown, College and Hoops Talk coming up next. Second City Sports right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Oh, sorry. Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, the last show for the month of February for us. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left of this extravaganza. We call it a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you want to hit us up in the comments section, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube page. So type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. Continuing our basketball power hour, continuing our NBA discussion, we'll break down some of the key games from over the weekend. Let's continue with some of the action from yesterday as the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Phoenix Suns at Fiserv Arena as part of their first game of the ABC doubleheader yesterday, 104-101. Giannis Antetokounmpo was injured on Friday against the Miami Heat. He did not play yesterday against the Phoenix Suns. Of course, Kevin Durant did not play yesterday against the Milwaukee Bucks. He'll make his Phoenix Suns debut Wednesday at Charlotte. Devin Booker had 26. Drew Holiday had 33 for Milwaukee. Lakina. It all came down to the basics down the stretch. Milwaukee made the bigger plays than the Phoenix Suns did yesterday.
Yeah, it's one of those games. I saw a little bit of this game, and look, Phoenix had their chances, but they were the Bucks weren't able to, they weren't able to take advantage of Giannis being out again. So that that kind of did not help them, and we'll see what happens once Kevin Durant makes his debut later this week. But yeah, I mean, the Bucks, sort of show kind of why they're like one of the top teams in the East. Drew Holiday had 33 points. Brooke Lopez had 22 off the bench, and so 22 points, I should say. And they were one of the reasons why that they were able to kind of hang on late against the Suns. I mean,
it was nice to see DeAndre Ayton on the flip side for Phoenix. 22 points, 11 rebounds. Yay!
Yeah.
I don't know if you hear me clap, but I'll do it one more time. Yeah, it was nice to see him on the positive side on the stat sheet, Lakina. Now if he could be that much more consistent, especially when Kevin Durant jumps into the lineup, Phoenix will be that much dangerous of a team. But we talked about his problems with head coach Monty Williams all summer stemming from last year's playoffs, and hopefully that DeAndre Ayton can be motivated and stay consistent because Phoenix is that much more dangerous with him being consistent down the middle. Remember, it was him and Giannis had a great battle in the NBA Finals 2 years ago. He digressed during last year's playoffs, and so far this year it's been up and down. So hopefully he can benefit from Kevin Durant's presence when Durant makes his Phoenix debut in a Phoenix uniform on Wednesday at Charlotte. And also, Chris Paul and Devin Booker both had to stay healthy.
That's going to be really the key now going into staying with the game from the early game from yesterday. Trae Young hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer to help the Hawks beat the Nets. It's been a tough last few games for the Nets, 129, 127 in that front. Kind of try to keep pace. I talk about the Hawks trying to keep pace in that play-in spot. Sacramento, they had a pretty interesting weekend. We'll get to them in a little bit. But they did beat OKC 124-115. De'Aaron Fox had 33 points, leading the way for the Kings in that game. Golden State with a nice win holding off Minnesota. Klay Thompson had 32 points. This was the first game of that the ESPN doubleheader, and we saw what Klay Thompson did, sort of trying to hold down the floor now that with Steph still being out. We don't know how long he'll be out. It could be another couple of weeks, who knows? But that sort of like trying to keep these afloat. But a nice win for the Warriors because they were down a little bit, but they were able to kind of get going with Klay.
Yeah, as we said before, Lakina, when Steph Curry went down again, it's going to be about Draymond Green. I know he didn't play last night, but it's going to be about those veterans on the team, Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson. What they're going to do is in terms of having and sharing load of scoring. So you saw that last night. Minnesota is a miracle that they've been around 500, especially due to the injuries of Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns. It is a miracle that they're hanging around 500 now. Will it stay that way at the end of the season? You need both those guys back healthy. If they can get those guys healthy in time, I think they can make the play-in tournament. Right now, they're on life support.
Absolutely, and there's a thing with the buzzer beater thing too. So, we'll see. Going back to the Atlanta Brooklyn game, we'll get to that later when we can talk about college hoops in a little bit. But the nightcapper, though, if you were watching Dame just shooting lights out against Houston, the Clippers and Denver. I mean, they had a nice, a really good game. The Clippers tied it, but then Denver kicked up a notch in the overtime. 134, 124 over the Clippers. Jokic had 40 points once again. Another. Is there really nothing more you can say about Jokic at this point in his career? But at the same time, though, with another triple double, I should say. But at the same time, though, the Clippers. I mean, you thought that maybe they were starting to get things over with Westbrook. Westbrook had 17 points. Kawhi had 33. PG had 23. But they just couldn't make the shots late to try to keep pace with the Nuggets in overtime.
And also, too, being outscored 35-22 to start the first quarter, that's not going to help either. Yes, they did get back in the game and eventually forced overtime. But remember, we talked about Zubac Lakina in addition to Mason Plumlee from that trade with Reggie Jackson a couple weeks ago. That was going to beef up the Clippers front line. So far, we haven't seen the defensive presence that we thought we were going to see from this Clippers team. We'll get to their game last Friday against Sacramento in just a moment, but I definitely didn't see that last night. You know that the Denver Nuggets are one of the best highest scoring teams in the league. You mentioned led by Jokic and Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. They could not stop them. Their play like I always remind me about the Bulls, especially the Bulls' interior defense. There was none of that last night. They let Denver go up the lane and lay it up, and it was embarrassing.
Yeah, it was totally embarrassing. Just couldn't hit the shots late to kind of sustain that. So yeah, they've got some problems over there at the Clippers. We'll talk more about that. Now going to Saturday's game, probably the game of the night was, of course, the ABC game of Saturday game of the night. The Celtics beat the Sixers 110-107. Tatum hit a shot with just a few seconds left, and Embiid, if he had just released the ball like maybe a tenth of a second sooner, he held it off with maybe as time was expired, but he launched it. It did not count. It would have forced overtime, but it didn't count. I checked it 3 or 4 times. He just couldn't get it off in time. But yeah, that was a crazy game from start to finish.
Yeah, looking at the Boston Celtics, they had balanced scoring, not just with Jason Tatum, who had 18 points in the eventual game winner. Yeah, Al Horford, who owns Joel Embiid, by the way, throughout his Embiid's career. Horford had 15 points and 4 rebounds. Also, too, Jaylen Brown ended up with 26. He had a monster game. Marcus Smart, RP Tom Heinsohn, had 10 points, and also he had a couple of rebounds as well. He had a couple of key stops down the stretch as well. But looking on the flip side for Philadelphia, outside of Embiid and Harden, those two guys didn't get help from anywhere else. You only had to combine 12 points from your bench. I'm talking about Philadelphia. That's not going to get it done, especially come playoff time.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's not going to be good. So I think that's something that Doc's going to have to figure out. So that balanced scoring, they need to kind of figure out outside of Embiid and Harden, who's going to kind of step up for the Sixers to help those two out. So we'll see what happens there. But not really much going on. I mean, the Knicks beat the Pelicans 128-106. Julius Randle had 28 points, leading the way for the Knicks. The Pelicans starting to struggle a little bit again. So, but we'll see if they can kind of keep it up. Now going back to Friday's game, if you fell asleep, but then you took the over in Kings Clippers. Had a very nice start to your weekend. A 176-175 double overtime win. No, that's not a typo, folks. That's the second highest scoring in an NBA history. Real quick, Sid, I won't let you guess. I will ask you to guess about what's it, but I'll just tell you that the Pistons beat the Nuggets 186-184, and it was a triple overtime game, December 13th, 1983. So they were well short of that record. But Malik Monk had 45 off the bench. I mean, really? Like, how is that even possible? How is that even possible? But De'Aaron Fox had 42 in the lineup, and just a really crazy scoring. I mean, the Clippers were up by I think about 8 points in the first overtime. They couldn't hang on, and then Malik Monk and Fox, I think a couple other guys as well, kind of took charge late, and it's a little bit crazy, but Malik Monk tied Kevin Martin's record for the second most points off the bench by a Kings player. The only player with more is Mike Woodson. He scored 48 points off the bench. for the Kansas City Kings. Going back to 1983. So, just a little bit. That also Kawhi Leonard had 44 in a losing effort. This is the fifth time in NBA history that there were at least 3 40-point scores in a game, and the first time since 2012. So, Sid, I know you probably got a chance to finish watching it, but just a crazy game from start to finish.
Yes, it was, and I knew about that Detroit-Denver game. I said it to myself. I watched the entire game from the second quarter on after I got home from work. I yelled it out loud in that first overtime. I said, Detroit-Denver from 83, you guys' record may be in trouble. Now, it was fun to watch from an entertainment perspective, but on the flip side for the Clippers, I know Stephen A. Smith, I don't know if you watched yesterday's pregame show, NBA Countdown. He went in on Paul George and the Clippers. I agreed with them to a point, but don't forget in the first overtime, Mason Plumlee has some bad passes too. So if you're going in on Paul George, cool. I know he's the star, but going in on Mason Plumlee as well. He has some bad plays down the stretch as well. Let's not forget that was Russell Westbrook's debut as a Clipper. He has 17 points. Like I said, I think I told you before we started the show. Russell Westbrook has not been the problem for the Clippers. He's giving the Clippers what they need, even though it's been an early sample size of only 2 games. Russell Westbrook has been doing fine. It's just that Paul George made some critical mistakes down the stretch along with Mason Plumlee. And they had a 14-point lead going into the fourth quarter. And they took their foot off the gas. And when you let young teams like that, like Sacramento, if you give them confidence, they're going to take advantage of it. And that's what happened last Friday.
And it looks like so far the Kings have kind of stayed afloat. So it's a little bit weird, that you got De'Aaron Fox, he's finally starting to get going. Malik Monk, is finally starting to get going. You got the Sabonis, he only had 20 points, but really didn't need it. But it was definitely like one of those crazy games. And look, this is another one of those losses where if the Clippers have a bad seed or end up going to the play-in, this is gonna be one of those losses where you're gonna look back and say, oh gosh, yeah, we could have had that one. So they had multiple chances to put this game away, but they didn't. So, like I said, they were up 7-0 in the first overtime, so they weren't able to hang on. And look, got to give the Kings credit. They fought back and won the game, and they've won, I think, like 4 in a row. You're going back to right before the All-Star break. So yeah, a little bit crazy there now.
I got Lamont Scott checks in via the Facebook. He says Sacramento Youth ran the old guys. They did, and also too, fatigue was a factor, especially in that going into that second overtime. You saw the fatigue factor going into the second overtime. It affected Clippers a heck of a lot more than it affected the Kings.
Yeah, you can tell that they probably had a second, but they probably could have played another overtime too if they. So that's.
I don't know if you heard the comments with De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk following the game. I think one of the reporters asked them, "Would you?" I'm just paraphrasing him. Do you like playing a game like this? Would you like to play in another game like this? And Malik Monk said, "No."
Well, yeah, man, that could be tiring. Look,
exactly.
It could be tiring. Well, and if you win, and they won, so you think that they had to see how he would have reacted had they had lost. But it is what it is with that. Of course, the Suns pulled away from OKC 124-115, and the Bucks. No trouble, no Giannis, no problem. I mean, they beat the Heat 128-99. Of course, Drew Holiday also had 24 points. I want to talk about Miami for a second. They had a couple of tough losses. Of course, they also will lose to the Hornets. After that, on Saturday. So they're starting to kind of. I'm a little worried about the Heat. I know our girl Lana took her. I know she's a big. We know she's a big Heat fan. I know she's a little bit worried about them too. So. What do you think's going on with the Heat? I mean, not looking good coming out of the gate after the All-Star break.
Yeah, as we said before, Lakina, defense is their identity, and they're not doing that right now. As we also said throughout the season, who's going to help out Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, who stepped up his offensive game this year, by the way. I think playing in the Olympics a couple of years ago helped him out as well. So who's going to step up outside those two guys to help carry the Miami Heat offensively? Tyler Herro's still there. You still, I know Kyle Lowry's been injured off and on his last couple of years, but who's going to be that third guy to help out Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler offensively?
That's going to be something that hopefully Eric Spoelstra and that he can figure that out. Now going into games, so some good ones here coming up. Of course, we'll start with tonight, Monday. You got Detroit and the Hornets at 6:00. And the NBA TV Monday game of the week, you got the Heat. Speaking of the Heat, the aforementioned Heat, they have another tough one on the road. They got to go against the Sixers. I know they're going to be a little bit miffed from that loss to the Celtics. So I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if we'll see a blowout, but I'm sure Embiid and Harden, the rest of the Sixers are going to be on it tonight.
Yeah, they'll definitely be folks, and that's the NBA TV game of the night. That's tonight at 6:00. Rounding out tonight's schedule, Monday at 6:30, we'll have the Boston Celtics visiting the New York Knicks at MSG. That's at 6:30. And at 7:00, we'll have Orlando at New Orleans. The Pelicans are one game below 500. They'll try to get back to 500, taking on the young Orlando Magic Club. They're 25-36, referring to Orlando, but it's not as bad as you think.
No, they're not a bad 25-36 out of it up. They'll play it. Just ask the Bulls.
Right. And they beat them, I think, twice.
Yes, they did. But tomorrow, of course, the last day of February, you got Washington and Atlanta at 6:30, Milwaukee and Brooklyn at 6:30 as well. Also, too, at the same time, the Bulls, of course, are on the road or in Canada right now as we speak, as they'll face Toronto. And the first game of the TNT Tuesday night doubleheader should be a fun one here. You got the Lakers and Memphis at 6:30. You got LeBron James, a little bit banged up. We'll see if he'll play tomorrow against John Morant and the Grizz. So that should be a fun one. They had some real tough, great battles this year as well. Denver and Houston at 7:00.
And rounding out tomorrow night's schedule, Tuesday, we have Sacramento at OKC at 7:00. No, it's not a typo, folks. Even though those two teams played last night, so they're with the quick 2-game mini series there. At 7:30 tomorrow, we'll have the Indiana Pacers traveling to Dallas to take on the Mavericks. The Mavericks need to get back on track because they lost that 27-point lead to the Lakers yesterday at home. At 8:00, we'll have San Antonio at Utah. At 9:00, we'll have Portland at Golden State. And the second half of that TNT doubleheader tomorrow night will feature the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Los Angeles Clippers. Of course, that's the rematch from last year's play-in game in which the Clippers lost. This going around, the Clippers have lost their last 2 games in embarrassing fashion and look forward to getting back on track tomorrow against a injury-settled Minnesota team.
They should be able to take advantage of that. We'll see. I know they're going to be smarter from those last 2 losses, so we'll see the Clippers kind of get together. First day of March, on Wednesday, you got the Suns continue their East Coast road trip as they face Charlotte at 6:00. Of course, the Bulls, coming off a back-to-back, they face Detroit at 6:00 too on Wednesday. Should be a good one here. You got Cleveland and Boston. That's the first game, the ESPN Wednesday doubleheader at 6:30. The Sixers and the Heat. No, I'm not. No, that's not a typo, folks.
This time is from South Beach.
Yeah, this is a home and home 2-gamer. Don't ask. And Brooklyn and the Knicks at 6:30 as well.
Yeah, rounding out the Wednesday schedule, we'll have Memphis at Houston at 7:00, Orlando at Milwaukee at 7:00. Also, the Lakers and the Thunder at 7:00. I see a load management situation coming around for the Lakers. Let's go get. Remember, OKC has given them trouble the last 2 years, and don't forget, LeBron James broke the NBA scoring record against OKC a few weeks ago, right before the All-Star break. And rounding out the Wednesday night schedule, the second half of the ESPN Wednesday night doubleheader, New Orleans at Portland at 9:00.
Yeah, we'll see how much. That'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Of course, Thursday, I should say. The second day of March, you got Toronto and Washington at 6:00, and the first game of the TNT Thursday night doubleheader. Maybe an NBA Finals preview, perhaps. We'll see. You got the Sixers and the Mavs coming up. You got Embiid and Harden versus Kyrie and Luka. That should be a fun one. I'm definitely gonna be looking forward to that one.
Yep, and rounding out the Thursday schedule at 7:30, we'll have Indiana at San Antonio at 7:30. And the second half of that TNT Thursday night doubleheader will feature the Los Angeles Clippers in the Bay Area to take on the Steph Curry-less Golden State Warriors.
Oh, those should be some fun games. That is your schedule for the NBA for this week. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown, with you. Now we're gonna go stay with the hardwood, but this time we're gonna go to college. Selection Sunday is just a couple weeks away, and you got teams starting to kind of get things going here. Now there were a lot of buzzer beaters this week, but let's go back and start locally first. Illinois loses to Ohio State. I saw the highlights of this game, and unfortunately the sort of the same problems that Illinois has had throughout the season. They lose by 12 to a struggling Ohio State team. Coleman Hawkins, your buddies have 14 points, but that was Yeah. I'm calling your guy, but that was really about it. They had like struggles from some of the other guys out there. I mean, Terry Shannon Jr. only had 10 points. Unfortunately, Denisha only didn't score any points, so that's been, and they were 6 for 29 from a 3-point range. That's been a big problem for Illinois in their losses. So, as some of our buddies have said, this could be another early exit for Illinois, but we'll see. So, what do you think about that game yesterday?
Unfortunately, I had the chance to watch most of that game, and our buddy Caitlin Sharkey from WGN Sports said it best. Sometimes the way that the Illini play, they remind you of the Chicago Bulls, and yesterday, their interior defense was not there. Ohio State ran amok of them, especially driving inside the paint. Outside of Matt Meyer and Coleman Hawkins, who's starting to step it up defensively, no one else showed up for Illinois yesterday. Like you said, the three-point shot was not there. And speaking of Dane Danger, he didn't score not one basket. Remember, like I told you, they got away with it last Thursday in that comeback win against Northwestern. Both Hawkins and Danger had a total combined score of 9 points. That cannot happen again. Yesterday, between those two guys, 14 points and all came from Coleman Hawkins. So you cannot have that, especially going into tournament time. And not the one Terrence Shannon who fouled, he led that comeback last Thursday against Northwestern. He fouled out. You cannot have your major stars going into foul trouble, and that's what's been a problem for Illinois this year. Lack of 3-point consistency in 3-point shooting, the lack of interior defense, and at least two of your star players always getting in foul trouble. That cannot happen going into the big dance and the big tournament.
Absolutely. So, they got 1 week to kind of figure things out. We'll see what happens. SIU held off, I should say, UIC 68-65. Well, I'll tell you how important that win was for Southern Illinois in just a second. But Bradley beat Drake, and they can thank Missouri State for beating Drake on Thursday. So they were able to. They've clinched the regular season Missouri Valley Conference title for the first time. Yeah, going back to 95-96. It's been that long since Bradley had clinched the Missouri Valley Conference regular season title. So they're about to start their tournament. And like we've been saying the last few weeks, it's all about getting that top 4. You get the top 4, you get the bye. So with Bradley winning the regular season title, they get to chill for a couple of days. So not chill really, but Drake also joins them, and with that win against UIC and a couple other things happening, Southern Illinois is now back in the mix of that top 4, and also Belmont too. So those are your top 4 as they start Arch Madness on Thursday. So big wins for our local teams in the Missouri Valley. Now, shout out to our buddies Pro Dudes who called this game UCLA and Colorado. They gave them all they can handle. I'm talking about Colorado, but UCLA did just enough to hit some big shots late, got some defensive stops late. 60-56. I'll tell you how important that win was in just a second.
Yeah. Going back to the Bradley Braves, I did watch the end of that game yesterday. It was on ESPN too. Congratulations to Coach Waddle and that staff. I know this will be the first time they'll be. I don't know if this automatically gets them in, but being a regular season champs, it may. But we all know that the Missouri Valley Conference gets 1 or 2 at-large bids. At least that's been the trend the last few years. So hopefully, if they can take care of business, I'm talking about Bradley and win the conference tournament, they'll be in for sure, obviously. And the other teams you mentioned behind it will have to sweat it out. But congratulations to them winning the regular season title in the Missouri Valley. Not too many people had them this year. I know some people had Drake at some of the other schools, but congratulations to the entire Bradley Braves program. Like you said, it should be a heck of a tournament starting later this week in St. Louis. It'll probably be the most exciting that we've seen in years.
Probably, and there have been some exciting tournaments. So, like I said, Bradley, they were picked to finish like in the middle of the pack in the Missouri Valley. So the fact that they were able to win in a senior late, that's a good senior laden squad. So I'm sure they took that to heart. Now Northwestern, I'm starting to worry about them a little bit. They lose to Maryland, 75-59, and as I told you, Sid, they depend on the 3-pointer a little too much for my taste. And we saw it again. They were 5 for 19 from 3, and Maryland, to their credit, they were able to take advantage of that.
Jameer Young scored 18 points for Maryland yesterday. I got a chance to watch. I got a chance to watch the majority of this game on the Big Ten Network yesterday. Shout out to hometown guy Stephen Bartle, who called the game yesterday. And Jameer Young had a couple of heat check threes in that first half, and it was a miracle that Northwestern stayed in it because Boo Booey, don't laugh at the brother's name. That's his name. He's their leading. He's a star player for Northwestern. He only had 4 points yesterday, but he did have 8 assists. But Maryland kept up the pressure both offensively and defensively in that second half. In that first half, they were in the game because of their defense, but offensively they picked it up in that second half.
Yeah, absolutely. They were able to look when they're good. Maryland can be really good. Maryland could be one of those sleepers to go far in March. So they might be a team. If you guys think about a team that could be a sleeper to go far, I think Jameer Young is one of the top players in the Big Ten. I think he
showed it yesterday.
Yes, he did. So I'm sure that's going to be a team to look out for. Staying in the Big Ten, you got Wisconsin and Michigan. I saw a little bit of this game too. Again, a theme here: buzzer beater. Hunter Dickinson hit a buzzer beater 3. To send to overtime. And now with they were able to get it going late. They beat Wisconsin 87-79 in overtime, and now they're in second place with all the craziness that has gone on.
I know after all that, yeah.
Yeah, after all that, they're now in second place, and they can finish the season strong. Win the last couple of games, and perhaps maybe get into the tournament, if not in the bubble, but if not in the tournament, at least.
Yeah, I think yesterday before the game, CBS had them as the last 4 in, if I'm not mistaken. If I read that correctly, good. My eyesight still works beautiful. But I was watching the end of that game yesterday. I was watching a couple of other college games as well. But Michigan, I thought this was an elimination game for them between them and Wisconsin. And Hunter Dickinson, that was an incredible shot yesterday. We know he can shoot it from mid-range, but he's not the world's greatest three-point shooter. Remember, I forgot the guy who shot it for Michigan. His shot got blocked, and so that's what set up the Dickinson three-point shot that went into overtime. You could tell Juwan Howard, you could tell he was ready to go through that handshake line, but after Dickinson hit that shot, he was like, yes, I got 5 extra minutes, let's go. And you could tell that Michigan picked up the pace from there. So I thought it was an elimination game yesterday. Like you said, Lamone's Michigan finish up the regular season strong, which I think they will. They don't have to sweat it out less than 2 weeks from now on Selection Sunday. Wisconsin, they're in trouble. They're going to have to win the Big Ten tournament here in Chicago, and I don't know if they could do that.
Yeah, they had this game won, so I'm sure they're going to be smarting from this loss too. Another bad loss. Now Rutgers, of course, they were able to kind of reverse their fortunes. They were actually down big to Penn State. They would actually come back and win it. So I think they're already in regards, but Penn State lost a chance to kind of get themselves in the bubble, so they lose by 3. Now going back to Saturday's games again, coming with a theme here. Buzzer beaters. We'll get to some of those in a second. But Houston, no trouble with East Carolina. They win the American Conference because #1 seed there. Alabama held off Arkansas, Kansas. That was a great finish against West Virginia. And because of that Northwestern loss, we'll get to the Friday loss in a second. But Purdue loses to Indiana 79-71. That was a crazy game. Jalen Hood, Shino had 35 points. It was a career high for him. And that was a really interesting game from start to finish. But again, Purdue really doesn't worry about too much about it, but we'll get to that in a second. But UNC beat Virginia 71-63. Arizona State beats Arizona on a Desmond Cambridge Jr. 60-footer as time expired.
Look out.
to win that game. And of course, because of that, with UCLA beating Colorado, UCLA clinches the regular season Pac-12 title for the first time in a decade.
Yeah, going back to the Purdue-Indiana game on Saturday night, Lakina, are you worried about Purdue like I am? Because right now, Indiana, we talked about this over the last week or so. They barely beat Illinois. I know they lost to Northwestern on the road during that time, blowing a 21-point lead, but they rebounded nicely. I'm calling Purdue the best team in the I'm calling Indiana the best team in the Big Ten right now. Purdue has fallen off these last few weeks. I'm worried about them going to the Big Ten tournament in a couple of weeks here in Chicago. I don't know if they could regain that swagger that they had starting the season. They were the top 3 team in the country. They were ranked #1 for a couple of weeks. It looks like they lost their confidence. I don't know if they can gain it back in time for the big dance. Yeah,
well, they just clinched the Big Ten regular season title for the 25th time. So because of losses to Northwestern, their losses. So even despite that loss, to Indiana, Purdue was able to clinch the #1. And plus, remember, Purdue was actually picked to finish near the middle. So no one really expected them to get to be near the top. So that's kind of crazy how that happens, but it is what it is. That one, I'll see. I mean, look, I want to see how they look in in these last couple of games in the Big Ten tournament here, which is going to be here in Chicago this year, and the UC. Yay! Hits all the the road games the Bulls got coming up, but. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Baylor beat Texas 81-72. Marquette, they clinched a share of the Big East title by beating DePaul. Tennessee, Tennessee with a nice bounce back win against South Carolina. They took it out the big time by 40. And Gonzaga got their revenge against St. Mary's, but St. Mary's still ended up winning the West Coast Conference regular season title. Their tournament starts on Thursday.
Gonzaga's gonna win that conference tournament after what you just reported, so they'll be more motivated than ever.
Well, look, if you're a bubble team, you're cheering for both them and for St. Mary's to get into the final, so that you don't have to worry about them with that. But one of the bigger upsets, Matthew Cleveland again 3-pointer. As time expired, they gave Florida State the upset win over Miami. They trailed by as many as 25 points. That's the largest comeback in ACC history. So if you're Jindler and Nigga, your squad, you're smarting over this one.
Yeah, like you said, big lead blown like that. Especially, I know Florida State's been struggling this year. But Miami has been under the radar, one of the best second-tier teams in the country all year. That loss does hurt, but the key, especially around this time of year. Can you turn it around mentally? If you can, I think they'll be okay. But if they let it stay in their heads, it's going to be problems for them. But I know we got a break for the top of the hour, Lakina. I just want to give a shout out to my guy, Penny Hardaway of the Memphis Tigers. They beat the Cincinnati Bearcats yesterday, 76-73. Kendrick Davis with 22 points. Memphis is 22-7. I think they're safe as far as an large bid for the NCAA tournament. I know they had to sweat it out a couple of times, especially last year of getting in, but this is a little bit better squad this year than last.
Yeah, I think Memphis, if they can get into the final of the AAC tournament, if they face Houston, I think that should help them a little bit.
Yeah, just like last year.
Right. So, if they can get to that, I mean, they're fine. Now, of course, Lamont Butler, he hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer again for San Diego State. They clinched the Mountain West Conference over New Mexico. Iowa State and Michigan. I mean, oh geez, gosh, that whole game was just crazy. Well, we'll do it real quick. I know we're way past the break, but they were Iowa down. I think like 13 with like 11, like a minute, just under 2 minutes left. They got into a tear. They hit 4 straight threes led by Chris Murray. And they come back and they beat Michigan State in overtime, 112-106.
Yep, and so that's your weekend recap in college basketball. Quickly looking, like you said, we're up against it, but I want to go through the schedule for tonight's games, the key games tonight and throughout the week for college basketball as the regular season winds down. Tonight on ESPN, the doubleheader starts at 6 o'clock with North Carolina and Florida State. Can the Seminoles pull off another upset? North Carolina's been struggling recently, so we'll see what happens with that. Followed by Baylor at Oklahoma State. Big game for both teams in the Big 12 here.
Yeah, Baylor trying to keep pace with Kansas. They're kind of like right there behind them. But OK State, they're trying to get into the bubble. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, Marquette, they're not number 6 in the country going into tomorrow's games. They face Butler on FS1 at 5:30. Now, Clemson, they really need this win against Virginia. That's at 6 o'clock on ACC Network to try to kind of get back into the bubble again because they've been struggling lately. Iowa and Indiana, they're trying to at least clinch a share of the Big Ten title with Purdue. That's going to be at ESPN2 at 6 o'clock.
Yep, Florida and Georgia at 6 o'clock on the SEC Network. Also, too, we'll have number 3 Kansas hosting Texas Tech at 8 o'clock on Tuesday on ESPN. On ESPN2 at the same time at 8 o'clock on Tuesday, we'll have Arkansas traveling to Tennessee to take on the number 12 ranked Volunteers. And not too many people are talking about Tennessee this year, Lakina, but they're a darn good basketball team, and I would not want to play them, not just in the SEC tournament coming up in a couple of weeks, but in the main tournament as well.
San Diego State meets Boise State at 8 o'clock on CBS Sports Network, and Texas A&M meets Ole Miss at 8 o'clock on ESPN. And Michigan State, Nebraska. Michigan State trying to hopefully can get that loss against Iowa out their mouths as they try to get back into the bubble.
All right, let's go into Wednesday's action. We'll have Auburn versus number 2 Alabama on ESPN2 on Wednesday at 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock Wednesday on CBS Sports Network, DePaul will travel to UConn to take on the number 14 ranked Huskies. At 6 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. This is for Wednesday. Number 21, Maryland will travel to Ohio State to take on the Buckeyes. Maryland, they had a big win against Northwestern yesterday. Can Ohio State pull off another upset? We shall see. And also, too, looking down here at the schedule, Gonzaga going to host Chicago State on Wednesday. And that's at 8 o'clock, but no TV for that one.
Yeah, I think that's the start of the WAC tournament for them. So we'll see.
Okay.
Texas and TCU at 8 o'clock on ESPN. 2, and I think that's a makeup game. If I'm not mistaken, that game with Gonzaga. So I wonder if that's a makeup game from earlier this season. Penn State and Northwestern. Northwestern trying to get those last 2 losses out their mouths. The Loyola, they host Rhode Island. They haven't had a good transition into the A10 this year, but we'll see what happens. And look, like I said, a lot of conference tournaments. Some of the smaller conferences are already starting their tournaments on Thursday. So yeah, so Missouri Valley among others. So check out those lists for the games, the times, and the teams that are going to be playing in your area. But so they are finishing up their season. Michigan and Illinois at 6 o'clock on ESPN. They're going to finish up their season.
Thursday.
For Thursday. So Rutgers and Minnesota. That's 6 o'clock on FS1 at 6. And like I said, Memphis, they need to keep winning to get back in the bubble. They face SMU at 8 o'clock on ESPN2. Again, these are all these teams are finishing up their season. So like I said, all the other Arizona and USC at 10 o'clock on ESPN. And that's about it for the games.
Number 1, Houston will host Wichita State on Thursday at 6 o'clock on ESPN2.
All right, so those are, like I said, with all the conference games, getting ready to happen. Conference tournament, I should say, on the smaller side. The base schools don't start till next week, so you guys get a little bit of time to get to know some of these smaller teams. So make sure you guys check those out all week long. Now we're going to take a really quick break. Super quick, but we're going to talk some Bears and NFL. Of course, the rumors been flying. Also to baseball, some spring training action and such. So got a lot to do still. The Keenan McGee and Cindy Brown coming up next. We're going to take a really quick break. Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. NFL and baseball coming up right after this.
No, I don't know, though. I'm scared. No, I don't know, though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so...
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to Second City Sports as we kick off our number 2 on this fabulous Monday edition, right here live in 11 color on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and Keenan McGee on the IG.
And you have a question or comment for us during our less than now 45 minutes or so of this extravaganza we call it a live sports talk radio show. You can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit of some NFL and Bears real quick because I guess there was a report that came out this morning from Adam Schefter that he said that the Bears are leaning towards, again, we're quoting, leaning towards trading the number 1 pick. So, and I guess they're getting a lot of suitors and whatnot. Not really a big surprise. I mean, of course, a lot of people, there have been speculation that what Ryan Poles is going to do with that pick. So,
is that Schefter calling you right now?
Yeah, that's him calling me as we speak. But, she had the same birthday, actually, Shefty and I. But I'm just to see what you think, because I think in this case, I mean, look, of course you're going to listen to to Steelers and stuff. Of course, you got the Texans, you got the Colts. They both need quarterbacks. Bryce Young, Will Levis. I know Anthony Richardson's name has been brought up too as perhaps maybe a potential number 1 quarterback. But what do you think? Because of course you don't want to. We've had various folks who come in, on the show, and I know that our girl Kayla Sharker from WGN said that just as a couple of weeks back that you don't want to. You don't want to go too far back. Of course, our girl, another one of our favorites, Maggie Hendricks, said it too from Valley Sports. She said the same thing that, you don't want to go too far back to a point where you don't want to get the guy that you want. So, what do you think of the Bears' mindset is at this point? It could happen this week, though. That's what else they're saying too.
Yeah, like we say every year, Lakina, around this time, especially when we get closer to the NFL draft, it's Lions season because teams are positioning themselves to get the best deal possible. They tug off certain people, they downplay certain people, and we all know how that happens because it's all about posturing at this point. I think if you're the Bears, like you said, you're listening to offers. If it strains from your plan of taking the guy that you want with that top pick, then don't do it. I'm not just going to make the trade just to make the trade. It usually doesn't work out for you. So if you're Ryan Poles, you're smart. He's known this as ever since the season ended that the teams that really want a quarterback, you have to come with your best offer. I'm listening, but I'm not just going to pull the trigger just to pull the trigger. This Bears team still has holes they need to fill. With all those draft picks they have, they're going to fill them. But I'm not just going to trade that number 1 draft pick just to trade it away. Like we talked about for the last couple of weeks, you listening to offers and you see what the true value of the number 1 pick is worth. But I'm not just going to pull the deal just to make the deal. I'm not under the gun, no pun intended, of you have to trade this pick. I don't think Ryan Post is looking at it that way.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Nor should he.
Well, yeah, I know that Shefty said they could the trade could happen as early as this week. I don't see that happening. Besides, no trade could be made official until March 15th. That's when the new league year starts. So that's going to be kind of like the thing where, okay, even if they do decide, I'll say the Colts, they trade, picks, they trade a couple of players, utility guys and whatnot. But at the same time, though, it can't be made officially until March, for another 3 weeks. So, there really is no point in I'm sure he'll listen to offers, but I think let's kind of slow down here on the whole. Okay, we could get this guy, we get this pick or whatever. So I'm sure they'll figure out something. I'm sure they'll probably end up trading back, but how far back? That's the number 1 question.
Yep. Also, too, if you mentioned this, Lakina, I apologize. But this week, doesn't it start the combine for Indianapolis?
Yes, yes, it's
That's
going on
our
right now,
team.
right as we speak.
As our teammate at War Media, and he's the host of the Bears Under Center podcast, the Chicago Bears podcast, presented by NBC Sports Chicago's Kenneth Davis used to say back in the day. It's about this time it's about the players lifting weights and the jewelry jingling. So that's what the NFL Combine is all about. I'm sure that's another reason why that this story is out as well, because the Combine is here. Usually, most of the top guys work out, but some of the top picks don't work out there. So in most of these GMs, if you're smart, you have a smart scouting department, and they usually scout the guys that do the best, but they're not getting as much pop. This is the time for them to perhaps discover the unsung heroes, as we say, or some of the unknowns, and that's where you hear some of the stories come out of this combine, and you would say, "Oh, why this guy didn't get picked here or there? Why did they trade this pick to get that guy?" And things along that line. So I'm very interested. I'm very interested to see who's going to participate this week, who's going to sit out the combine. Because, like I said, everybody's not participating in this. I'll be shocked if Bryce Young is there.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, he's there, but he's not going to throw. So other QBs are going to throw.
They usually have their own pro days anyway.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll have pro days in Alabama. So I'm sure he'll probably wait till then to do that. Jalen Carter, who's Georgia's star defensive lineman, he's not going to work out the combine either. So yeah, there are some guys that don't throw at the combine or don't work out at the combine for various reasons, whether it's injuries, whether it's just say, you know what, that's what pro days are for. So I'm sure Georgia pro day, Carter will probably work out from then. So I think the combine, I don't want to say it's a waste because that there's no disrespect to the folks who cover those, because we know some people who cover those. As you said, aforementioned our buddy Ken, but yeah, I just think that okay, if you want to, say improve your stock, I mean that working out that helps. If you're a guy that's kind of like it's not under the radar for some scouts, but this is your time to kind of shine. So hey, go for it. But yeah, I think with the exception of maybe a few, I think for the most, maybe like 70% of the guys will probably be there, will probably end up being drafted. So. Look, I mean, you saw what happened with Tom Brady. We saw how he looked during the combine, and the rest was history. So, and also Pat Mahomes too, same thing, just a few years ago.
Yep. The one important thing about the combine, will Rich Eisen do his traditional running the 40-yard dash this year?
I don't know.
I want to see that.
I don't know. I mean, look, remember he's getting up there, sis. I don't know if he wants to. I don't remember he said last year he pulled a hamstring. His wife almost killed him for doing it. I think that might be a little bit much for him, but yeah, I think we'll see if he does. I mean, I would be surprised if he does to kind of redeem himself from last year. And also same thing with Shefty too. I know he does it too sometimes, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, I mean, like you check the combine on NFL Network, they're gonna have like all day coverage of it, and also too. And I know there are gonna be reports on some of the other various places. I know we got to cover our guys and gals are gonna be out there too covering it. So for the Bears, especially with the number 1 pick, so we'll see.
Yeah, the coverage starts tomorrow afternoon on the NFL Network at, I believe, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. So check it out. It's going to go on all week, almost 24 hours straight news from the NFL Combine from the NFL Network. So check it out. I know a lot of people in Chicago especially will check it out because you might find your number 1 pick there or some other pick that not too many people are talking about. Oh, I saw him at the Combine. And Ryan Poles ended up drafting him in the 3rd round 2 months later.
Well, that's what happened last year with Velus Jones. So yeah, that's kind of like what happened there. Any other NFL nuggets that kind of catch your attention before we move on?
I think you said this on Friday. If not, you could correct me. But I'm so sick of the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. I know the new league year starts in a couple of weeks, but I know he's out of the darkness, quote unquote. But can we make a decision already? I think he knows what he wants to do, but he's trolling the media as he always does. I'm interested to see what he's going to say on the Pat McAfee show tomorrow. Maybe that's him calling right now. I don't know, but can you just give a decision already? Because I know most of those athletes like to play the media and drag things out to keep their names in the headlines. But this has gone far enough. It's getting annoying.
Yeah, I'm over it. Yeah, I said
Yeah.
on Friday, I'm over it. I mean, I'm like,
Mhm.
who cares? Like, just make a decision. I think he's going to stay with the
Yeah.
Packers. I know there have been some indications where he might, leave, but that's too much money he's leaving on the table. I read that Jair Alexander has restructured his deal to kind of make some money available for some things. So I'm wondering if that could be like a sign that maybe Rodgers might be leaning towards going back to Green Bay. Who knows? But just make a decision, Rodgers. I don't care anymore. I don't. I don't want to go this again on Friday, and he doesn't make the decision. Okay, you want to wait another 2 weeks until the league starts, so new league year starts. Yippee. Good for you. Let's go. Move on.
All right.
Listen,
You go ahead, Leah.
no, you go ahead and reset.
Okay. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Monday edition. We're live and live in color. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. This will be our last show for the month of February. Lakina, at this time of year, you know what that means. As we reach this point of the calendar, as we turn our attentions to the month of March, spring training is underway. And for both of our local teams, both the Cubs and the Sox, the Cubs look good over the weekend. The Sox lose their first 2 games of spring training, but the results is not as important as you think. But the new rules for the MLB is being implemented this year. And one rule in particular is the pitch clock. I did get a chance to watch that San Diego-Seattle game live, looking at it. We got off air on Friday. Manny Machado got caught with his pants down, no pun intended, not getting back in the box 10 times. So the pitch was called a strike. If a runner's on base, you have 20 seconds, both the pitcher and the hitter, to get in your stance for the pitcher and you get in the box as a batter. But no one's on base, 15 seconds. And did you check out the end of the Atlanta-Boston game on Saturday?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I think we're gonna be seeing a lot more of that, because look, we're getting, you're getting used to the pitch clock and not being able to kind of like, look, the balk and stuff. Gonna be a lot more balks this year. So I think, we're gonna be seeing a lot more of those. And I know, I think like most of the games, the spring training games were like under like 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Could that might be a reason why they're doing this? The bigger bases, it look kind of like the size of maybe like this desk I'm on here. So that's another thing that's good. Another site that might be get a lot to get used to. But I like the rules so far. I mean, like I said, we don't want like 4.5, 5 hour games in some cases. So Mark Burley's probably somewhere just giggling, like a young boy. So I'm like, ha. So look, see, y'all knew I was onto something there. But it'll be interesting to see, because that's gonna be like an adjustment too. But look, speaking of Manny Machado, he got a $350 million extension with the Padres for 11 years. So I know he got called for that, but I think he had a pretty nice weekend overall. You got that little bump in salary, staying with the Padres.
Mm-hmm. And the White Sox could have had him 4 years ago, but that's a whole nother issue for a whole nother day. But going back to those rules for MLB, looking, I like them too. But the couple of things that I noticed, in particular, that the pitchers that with the pitch clock, they have the advantage, because remember the hitters, especially. I watched Jose Abreu. He made his Astros debut on Saturday in the Astros uniform. As hitters like him, you should step out of the box, take their time to see what the pitcher is going to bring. If you're a hitter, especially when a man's not on base, you don't have all the time in the world to step out of the box, step in, and take your time to see what the next pitcher is going to throw. You have to stay in that box, and you have to be prepared just like that, because the pitcher is going to throw the ball in an instant. Once you step in, you better be ready just like that, or else you're going to be out the box, no pun intended. So I think it's going to take some time. Of course, if you're a young player that's been in the minor leagues over the last 2-3 years, those rules were implemented. So if you're a veteran player that's been in the majors for all this time, it's going to take some time getting used to. I think this is just a prediction here, for the first month of the season, you're going to see some minor hiccups here and there. But I think by the end of April, I'm talking about for everybody, in particular the veterans, everybody, I think we'll be okay. Now, will it cost somebody a playoff game? That's way down the road, and we'll see about it. But I think it's going to take some time, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think. But I think after the first month and a half, I think things will be fine.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens with that, because I saw Matt Scherzer's comments. I know that he feels that some of those rules were he'll make his debut from the Mets tomorrow. But I feel like it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that. But yeah, I mean the pitch clock is gonna be interesting. I know the bigger bases and the box. I mean that's gonna be another thing that's gonna be interesting to see how the pitchers and stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is gonna be very interesting, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm kind of like right there with you. I mean, I know the reason why they made these rules so that they can get more the gays, kind of more phonetic pace, get it going. So, I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens, but I'm looking forward to kind of like how, especially during like the regular season starts. That's gonna be really like gonna be the key here.
Yep, and like we say with anything in life, especially in the world of professional sports, things take time. And I saw some of the interviews with some of the veteran players over the last 48 hours, and they were saying that, oh, we don't know all the rules yet, but this is what spring training is for, to get those kinks taken care of and learn as you go. I think it's going to be more of the hitters, not so much the pitchers, but more the hitters picking up their pace, because you can't step out of the box anymore, adjust your gloves like Nomar Garciaparra did back in the day. You can't just step out of the box whenever you want to. The pickoff attempts, I think it's only 2 per batter, Lakina. I believe you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not going to see as many pickoff plays as you've seen in the past. And I think it's going to create more offense, Lakina. I think the home run ball is still going to be there, but the one thing that I'm really happy about is going to bring the stolen base back. In particular, our 2 teams here in Chicago, but I'll speak on the White Sox, Tim Anderson and Luis Robert Jr. He wants to go by this year. The White Sox are a good running team with those 2 guys if they're healthy, because they're still a home run hitting team. If those guys don't create havoc on the bases, the White Sox are in trouble. So, but overall, I think it's going to bring the stolen base back. I think you're going to see a whole lot more action on the base pass, because the pitchers cannot throw over there 6, 7, 8 times anymore like they did in the past.
Yeah, that's going to be the key, because for those of you who don't know, the new pickoff rule, the pitcher will be able to step off the mound for a pickoff for any reason, maximum of twice per plate appearance. So you were right, Sid. And this also limits the reset the runner advances via steal, wild pitch, or pass ball. The pitcher can attempt to a third pickoff if it doesn't result in an out. If it is, it's an automatic box. So that's gonna be the key here, because if you got guys that are in third base or in first place, they're trying to steal. I mean, we just see what the pitcher's mindset's going to be, because they can't do the whole like automatic pickoff, because unless it's an out, they're kind of screwed. So that another rule that they're going to have to adjust to as well. So some rules are good. Some of them you kind of like make you scratch your head, but I'm looking forward to see how this is going to be implemented, especially for teams. I mean, I don't think it'll affect the Cubs and the Sox too much. But it'll be interesting to see how teams like the Mariners, who like to kind of like go to the phonetic pace and the fast pace. Then you got Houston, how they are. They like to kind of do things sort of phonetic pace as well. So that's gonna be another thing that's gonna be how the teams individually will be in it, and also the players as well.
Yeah. Also, one more rule before we break for the bottom of the hour. The shift rule, that's SHIFT. I know I pronounced that correctly, but just for our censors out there, the shift rule is now gone. I think it will help hitters like Yasmani Grandal. You don't have to hit into the shift. Most of your power hitters, especially your left-handed power hitters, you're going to see them hit a whole lot of line drive singles now. And I want to see, as the season goes along, which team or teams are going to manipulate their rule a little bit, and will the umpires catch it in time, because there's going to be a couple of those veteran managers going to test to see, this doesn't look like a shift defense to me, but we're going to kind of borderline it here or there a little bit. I want to see if the umpires can catch it or give those teams a leeway. I want to see how that shapes out as the season goes along.
Yeah, the shift that shift rule is gonna help guys like your also too our buddy Julio Rodriguez. He likes to kind of hit the ball sort of that power hitter. So all the power hitters are gonna be the ones that are gonna see how these sort of it could help both sides. It can help the hitters and the pitchers. So again, we'll have to wait and see. Especially in a game setting. Spring training, you're still looking. We're still trying to learn the rules and such. And so are they, the players, but I want to see it in actual game situations if games are going to be won or lost because of some of these rule changes.
Yep, the regular season for the MLB will get started on Thursday, March 30th. Spring training is going on right now. I believe later on this week, I believe when we commerce here on Friday, the wasted time of the World Baseball Classic sponsored by MLB will begin as well. So Baseball is underway, and we love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So should be fun, coming up too. So yeah, these split squad games, it should be interesting. Now we're gonna take a really quick break. Of course, we got to the bottom of the hour. Now we're gonna talk some Blackhawks. They made some trades. No, not that trade, at least not yet. Anyway, of course, for the trade deadline coming up on Friday. Also to some other sports happenings, maybe some sports media news, and also to
I have a list.
Yeah, you do. Yes, it has a list, and also to Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more coming up next. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Wrapping things up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. As Lakina tries to get her visual issues together, I can tell you that you can follow her on the Twitter at Keena McGee. Once again, at Keena McGee.
Sorry about that. I dropped something. I didn't want y'all to look like I see a blank screen or anything like that. So that's why you saw me there. But yeah, we're gonna be wrapping things up here in just a little bit. But the Blackhawks made a trade, Sid, but no, it's not that trade, folks. But we'll talk about talk about that first. But the Hawks have been playing pretty well. I know that they're trying to move Patrick Kane to the Rangers. He's already left the team. That's the rumor going around. They actually have a game tonight against Anaheim. I'm interested to see what happens again. We'll talk about that trade that they did with Toronto in just a second, but I want to go back to Friday's game, for the Hawks if we can. Let's see here. I'm getting a little frustrated. Of course, as I said, it was on Saturday, a 4-3 shootout win over the Sharks, and I'm again, no Kane, no Taves. Of course, Taves is still going through some various health issues still, but probably like the best story to come out of this game. And I don't know if you saw this game, but Dave Goss, who is a 29-year-old rookie, his first NHL game. His parents were in attendance in San Jose. His wife's expecting their first child. He's 29 years old. He scored his first goal in the NHL. These are the kind of stories that you like to see, especially with hearing stories about guys like Goss who are getting their feet, trying to get their feet wet, trying to get to the big show in years. But they gets into the league, makes a big showing and score a pretty good goal, kind of open things up for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, congratulations to Mr. Gus. As you mentioned, it's a nice story, and not all players are built the same, and not all players' journeys are the same and get into the big show, as you would say. But for Gus, I believe he played for the Rockford Ice Hogs. I know he was getting frustrated with the process of not making it to the NHL. I know he signed a two-way contract, a 1-year two-way contract for this season. It looks like, obviously, the hard work is paid off. Now, will he remain on the roster for the rest of the year? There remains to be seen. Me personally, I think he should, because you're not going anywhere. You're not going to the playoffs. It's all about building for the future. But for this year, it's all about tanking for Connor Bedard. But the team is not listening. I think they won their last 5 games. So there you go. But it's a nice story. And the Hawks will have many of those stories coming up. Not everybody from Chicago will be playing for the Blackhawks, but you're going to start hearing more of these stories as the Hawks are trying to rebuild here.
Yeah, they're doing just that because they got a big trade with Toronto now. I want to make sure I get all these names right, but of course they acquired forwards Joey Anderson and Pavel Gogolov, a 2025 conditional first round pick, and a 2026 second round pick from the Maple Leafs in exchange for Sam Lafferty, Jake McCabe, who is a defenseman, a 2024 conditional fifth round pick, and a 2025 conditional fifth round pick. Two fifth round picks in those last 2 years. In addition, they will retain McKay's salary, about half his salary, and he'll Gogolov will be report straight to the Rockford Ice Hogs. So far, they've been a little bit busy in the trade deadline. I should say for the Blackhawks. Wait for that big one, for Kane or so. We just see what happens with that.
It's all about salary dump and collecting more assets. If you GM Kyle Davidson, has been the storyline all season long, and so let's see if it frees up some space for that quote unquote third team that can help out the Blackhawks and the Rangers. Should this Patrick Kane trade will go through. Now, the earliest that I'm sure you heard this too, Lakita. The earliest that trade can be executed is on Wednesday. Of course, the trade deadline, I believe, is on Friday. And so they'll have a little bit more time. So I know that both teams, the Hawks and the Rangers, will try to get their financial situations together. Of course, the Rangers are trying to clear space. They held out a few guys off their lineup sheets for the last few games. So I don't think it's a matter of if, it's a matter of when, W-H-E-N, when this trade will occur. I think it's going to be occur between Wednesday or Thursday morning for me.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see. It's good. Look, like I know, we've seen like some people say it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, seeing Kaner in a different uniform, but you kind of expected this was going to happen. The Rangers are the team. They need him. They need his scoring. The last couple of games, they have not looked. They've shows that they really need him. So I think a trade is going to happen. It's going to come down to the right price. So we'll see if Kyle Davidson can put something together.
Yep, it's all about the future for the Hawks at this point. Can they tanking up to get Connor Bedard? We'll see, but it doesn't look good right now. I'm using air quotes because they won last 4 or 5 games.
All right, let me show you what happened. So, any NHL rumors that you want to talk about before we move on?
I'll just say this about the Washington Capitals. I saw that game the other night. I know Alex Ovechkin is back, and a piece of love to him and his family. I know he lost his father a few weeks ago, so I know Washington is battling for the eighth and final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. So I just want to say that out loud. But as we said before, Lakina, that a couple weeks ago, the Eastern Conference from spots 4 through 9 is going to be tough. Only the top 8 would get in. I think the Western Conference is pretty much set, but it's going to be battle for positioning in the East.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why, you're going to see some big trades. I know there were a couple of big trades that happened, throughout the last couple of days, involving some of those Eastern Conference teams. So we'll see if the Capitals can kind of get things going. Maybe the Canes might pull off maybe a trade. I've seen a couple rumors involving those guys. Now, speaking of Ovechkin, if you saw a great moment, that happened over the weekend with his first game back with the team. He surprised a young deaf hockey player, and you saw the joy in that young man's face. If you didn't see the video, check it out. It's you'll clear allergies. I'll say that. But I think we just see that some names are going to be kind of going around here a little bit. I mean, but the Hawks are still in last place. It's not like they're in second to last now. So I'm once Cater, I'm sure they're not going to get the memo saying that, look, you guys got to tank at this point. But of course, you want to win. Luke Richardson wants to win. He's on that mindset. But for the betterment of the franchise, you want to try to get that number 1 pick. So we'll see. But it'll be interesting if various guys are going to be moved around. I mean, I'm kind of seeing that. Will the Canes do anything? Will Dallas do anything? Like you said, I mean, the Devils, we'll be interested to see if they do anything. The Maple Leafs, we saw what happened. They got a couple of utility guys from the Blackhawks. We'll see if they have more moves up their sleeves. So it's going to be very interesting to see what some of these Eastern Conferences are going to do. Because like you said, the Western Conference is pretty much set. So it's going to be.
Yeah, don't forget Colorado. They got back Jack Johnson from the Blackhawks.
Yes, they did. So they really need him back to kind of give him that little bit of a oomph. So they're in third place in the Central Division right now. So I'm looking forward to see if there are going to be other big names that are going to be going around.
Yeah, same here.
All right, Sid, you got you listen to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, with you. Okay, Sid, you said you got another list for us tonight.
Yes, I do. Yeah, and as soon as my screen pops up, this comes courtesy of our guy Tim Kelly from Odyssey Sports. He has his top 15 pitchers to watch for the upcoming 2023 season. I'll just go through the list quickly. At number 15, he has Logan Webb from the San Francisco Giants. He had a 15-9 record with 2.90 ERA. Number 14, Kevin Gausman for Toronto. He was 12-10 with a 3.35 ERA. Checking in at number 13, he has Max Fried, who's really surprised everyone from the Atlanta Braves, the left-hander. He was 14-7 with a 2.4 ERA. Number 13, Julio Arias from the Los Angeles Dodgers. He had a record of 17-7 last year with 2.16 ERA. And at number 11, he has Carlos Rodon. Last year, he played for the San Francisco Giants. Of course, he signed that big free agent contract with the New York Yankees. Last year with the Giants, Mr. Rodon, former White Sox pitcher, posted a record of 14-8 with a 2.88 ERA. Any problems so far?
No, I like that list.
Okay. All right. Checking in at number 10. If the screen can get up here, good grief. I hate these damn computers. All right. Checking in at number 10, Aaron Nola from the Philadelphia Phillies. Last year, he had an 11-13 record of 3.25 ERA. At number 9, Shane Bieber of the Cleveland Guardians. The Sox beat him twice last year, by the way. He had a record of 13-8 last year with the Guardians with a 2.88 ERA. At number 8, Max Scherzer of the New York Mets. He's starting his second year with that ball club. He posted a record of 11-5 with a 2.29 ERA. And number 7, Zach Wheeler of the Philadelphia Phillies. 12-7 last year with a 2.82 ERA. And at number 6, Garrett Cole. He was 13-8 with the Yankees last year with a 3.50 ERA. Any problems yet?
Nope. You probably got the order. They got the order right. He got the order right.
Okay. Here's the remaining top 5. Number 5, Shohei Ohtani of the Los Angeles Angels. Pay attention to their name around trade deadline time. Of course, last year was 15-9 with a 2.33 ERA. At number 4, we had Jacob deGrom, now of the Texas Rangers. Of course, he was with the New York Mets last year. and he had a good year, but injuries has been his problem the last few seasons. Of course, last year with the Mets, he had a 5.4 record with a 3.08 ERA. Number 3, Corbin Burns of the Milwaukee Brewers. He had a 12-8 record last year with the Brew Crew with a 2.94 ERA. At number 2, Justin Verlander, now of the New York Mets. Of course, the last 3 seasons he was with the Houston Astros. With Houston last year, he won the AL Cy Young over Dylan Cease of the White Sox. He had an 18-4 record with a 1.75 ERA. And at number 1, Sandy Alcantara of the Miami Marlins, last year's National League Cy Young Award winner. He had a 14-9 record with Miami with a 2.28 ERA.
Yeah, but that's an interesting list that they have. I'm surprised that they have Alcantara up there at number 1, because a lot of people probably don't know too much about him. I think, and they know now since he won the Cy Young. He had a lot of innings last year, and I'm wondering, like, are we going to be seeing a lot of that for him this year? That's going to be like the number 1 question for me with him. So we're not. He could be another name that could be moved, for the trade deadline. So. That's going to be a name. You guys haven't heard the name already. Going to be hearing that name a lot in the next 3 months, especially as it gets closer to the trade deadline. So that's another thing I'm interested in. Jacob deGrom, he's very fascinating. Can he kind of give that little spark? I think that's going to be kind of like the thing. And he can stay healthy too. I mean, that's been the big problem the last 3 years. So I'm kind of looking forward to see it. But I have no problems with that list. I mean, I'm sure Shane Bieber would love to have those get a crack at the Sox again, and he will. So
yeah,
I'm sure he's gonna. I'm sure he's gonna want to make Cleveland even better than they were last year. They really didn't really need him too much, but I'm sure they want to take that next step in the AL. I think they're gonna want to have need a big showing from him. So overall, I think I have no issues with that list. I mean, Ohtani, I think that's another name that's gonna be floating around too during the trade deadline. So can he keep it up what he's been doing the last couple of years, especially on the mound? His hitting hasn't really been an issue. It's been like the mound. He's been even better pitcher. So I'm looking forward to see how much the new brass for the Angels use him. And of course, will he be gone by the summer? So going to another team. So yeah, no problems with that list at all.
All right. Before we get to your presentation to wrap up Old School TV Monday Black History Month edition, Lakina, did you get a chance to check out any of the Live Golf coverage locally here in Chicago on the CW, the WGN Channel 9?
I saw maybe 2 seconds. I wasn't, and I wasn't really interested. I mean, for those of you, I think about 20% of the markets, the Live, CW is not, in some of the markets. So that's going to be kind of like the issue for them. I'm dying to see what the ratings are going to be, especially for here in Chicago, because we got a lot of golfers here. Especially now that they'll be able to play in the majors, how many people will actually tune in? But like I said, I mean, it felt weird watching some of those guys, because I know I've seen some of those guys play throughout the years. It's gonna be very interesting, though. We'll see. But yeah, I kind of feel like I don't think the ratings are gonna be that high for them. I don't see it happening.
I saw 5 minutes of it. It looks like they was trying to do something different. I didn't stay with it long enough, but I was trying to see if they were going to air some commercials during the golf broadcast, and when I turned back, they did. So I don't know what the commercials about. It really doesn't matter anyway. But I know this is a new venture for the CW, airing a live sporting event. It looks like they're going to do some more of these. But just reading some of the comments on social media, as we always say, take it with a grain of salt. But in many comments that I read, it slammed the Live Golf in the coverage.
Yeah, I guess they like the guys that were calling those matches, and also to the way they presented. I think the graphics were a little bit weird. So, yeah, yeah. Like I said, this is a new venture for CW Sports. They actually have a CW Sports logo. If you saw it on the screen, it looked kind of weird that they just put sports and put the CW on top of it. That looked a little bit funky. But that's So they'll figure it out. But but look, Fox didn't. So this could be This could be a recipe for disaster for the CW. Who knows? But that's going to be interesting to see what the ratings will be.
All right, you listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. Now it's time to wrap up today's show by installing our last edition of Old School TV Monday Black History Edition. What's our TV show for today?
All right. Well, we're gonna go to the Big Apple in New York City, where Matt Scherzer and the gang. Of course, Jared Grom used to pitch for the Mets, but we're going to a different part of New York City, Brooklyn, I should say.
What Brooklyn at? What Brooklyn at?
Oh, brother.
Sorry.
But yeah, but we're talking about the popular Fox series Living Single. Yep, the Fox sitcom Living Single aired from August 22nd, 1993 to New Year's Day, 1998. It starred a great cast of, well-known, but, of course, rapper Queen Latifah, who was started into acting. Of course, Kim Fields, who at the time before then was, best known for her role as, of course, Dorothy Judy Ramsey on The Facts of Life. Kim Coles, of course, she was in the first couple of seasons. Well, the first season, I should say, of In Living Color. Erica Alexander, who is best known for her role as Pam on The Cosby Show. We'll get to that at some point. But yeah, I had a yeah. But of course, also John Hinton, of course, T.C. Carson, of course, Terrence C. Carson, that he's known by now. Of course, rounded out the great cast. It's about 6 African American singles living in Brooklyn. All the trials and tribulations. It kind of, it started out with just the 4 women, but it kind of grew into the 2 guys as well. So that kind of led into more of the ensemble part of it. It had 118 episodes on Fox. It was one of the top rated shows on Fox for all 5 years of that run. It had great, guest stars and such. And I loved every second of this show. I mean, the pilot, of course, they filmed the pilot in the Family Matters set. Of course, you recognize the set delivery in the kitchen. So, solid pilot there. But Sid, what do you think about the show? I know. Okay, let's get this out the way, because I know that there are gonna be some folks that are already gonna be talking about the Friends comparisons and such. I mean, look, both shows were great. The 2 different shows, for what it was. Yes, you can say, okay, yeah, the creators, the Friends creators say they got their inspiration from Living Single. Okay, yeah, they admitted that, but you can kind of say that Living Single got their inspiration from the Golden Girls. The only differences were that they were all black, and they were just 30 or 40 years younger. So go figure with that. So miss me with the whole Friends comparison here. That's all I gotta say about that. But Sid, what do you think about the Living Single and the great show and sort of like the great sort of like the breakthrough sitcom that it was for Fox and for all the sitcoms in general?
Yeah, just to put a capper on that Friends comparison, I didn't know this until I started watching some documentaries over the last couple of days. Both those shows were owned by Warner Brothers. So, of course, if you remember, Friends got heavily promoted by NBC at the time, and Fox did a stagnant job of promoting Living Single. So we'll put a capper on that. I stayed with the show through the first about 2 or 3 seasons. Of course, that show was heavily evolved around Queen Latifah and Kim Coles, as you mentioned, from In Living Color. I enjoyed her work on there.
Yeah.
And the storylines were real. And I know we'll probably dive into this right now. I'll just get it out the way. I like the John Hinton character. It was him and Sinclair, played by Kim Coles. They had the sort of a childish, but in a playful, adult way relationship. You could tell they really enjoyed their each other's company. There was a good relationship. It was about, you mentioned, just like A Different World we talked about a few weeks ago, Lakina. It was 6 African Americans. All of them had different personalities, different ideas. I like T.C. Carson's character as the smooth ladies' man. He wasn't a dusty, as some kids would say today, due to the negative stereotypes that some people say want to portray black people on TV. He was a smooth, cool guy. Queen Latifah, she was a lady in charge, as the kids today would call her, a boss chick. She was the head of a magazine with her character was on that show. Kim Coles was represented very well. Of course, people forget until you got into that series. Kim Fields, you mentioned, coming off of Facts of Life. Remember, she guest starred on Martin before she got Living Single as well. And so, and she was heavily involved in that show, especially behind the scenes as well. So all those different actors were represented well. Yes, they had their troubles, which we'll get to in just a second. But overall, I thought it was a great representation of African Americans on TV, because they're one of the first shows that kicked off the comedy side for Fox. Remember, they were squeezed between Martin and Married with Children at that time on Sunday nights before they moved to Thursdays. And of course, next year it's the 30th anniversary of the NFL on Fox. Remember, all those black shows debuted on Sunday nights. And of course, when football came along to Fox in the fall of '94, most, if not all, those black shows were moved to different parts of the week.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of like the nature of the business because that kind of helped. That kind of jump started Fox mainstream wise, if you will. So
Yes.
that was one of the reasons why they were moved and such. That was we were brought up, put in like about $1 billion at the time. That was like minuscule, next compared to now. So that's why a lot of those African all the shows in German. I know Married with Children, they got moved around a couple of times as well. So
They started on Sundays too.
yeah, and they ended up being moved around to various nights around. I think Wednesday was their big night, but yeah, I mean, look, we'll get to before we get to like the deeper stuff. Let's get to like a lot of the guest stars because there were a lot of great ones. Of course,
I forgot some of these, but yeah, we'll get to them.
Yeah, Heavy D, of course, played Regine's love interest. Totally different from what you would think a princess like Regine would, bougie, I guess you probably use the word now. But look, to her credit, she wanted her black, Ken, Washington or whatever, how you want to say it. So
yeah,
that to her, she, look, she had her standards pretty high, but yeah, she wanted those standards. Of course, Isaiah Washington, pre-Grey's Anatomy, Isaiah Washington, of course, play Khadijah's love interest, a doctor. That kind of a precursor there. Monica, of course, played a friend, I guess a friend of one of their Khadijah's exes. I think that's who she played. Of course, Terrence Howard, of course, before of course, he became Lucius Lyon, of course, on Empire. Very young, and during the first season, played Max's. You don't want to say boy toy because there wasn't really that big of an age difference, but he was younger. His character was younger than Max. Also, Morris Chestnut, if you guys remember, they actually made this kind of like turn this into real life. His character, of course, appeared in the first the first season finale, and then follow up the cliffhanger from the next season, second season. They had this sort of like real life, I guess, phone numbers, to see which one his character they wanted to go on a date with.
Yeah,
Khadijah, Max, or Regine. That was really cool. Of course, we saw John Henn doing his best Jerry Lewis impersonation with the telethon and such, of course. And they actually, for what Kim Fields said, they actually filmed like 3 different versions for that. So
okay,
I read that. So I guess the other
that part I didn't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, the other 2 never been released. So we'll see if they're released at some point. But yeah, also Dean Cain, of course, appeared as himself. Of course, he was doing Lewis and Clark at the time. Also owned by Warner Brothers. Eartha Kitt, was playing like kind of like a little vamp, like a centric client that Kyle. They wanted, yeah.
I can't do it, but
yeah.
That's what she's known for from the old Batman TV series back in the 60s.
Yes, TLC, of course, appeared over.
I remember that episode. Remember, what's Kim Cole's character? Sinclair. She was in the bed with Overtaylor, and they were dancing. She's like, "Get your waterfalls, shaking asses out of my room."
I love that. That was hilarious. Like, get out. But
yeah.
Of course, this is for me. Shamar Moore, of course, in between. Of course, YNR. He appeared. Of course, he actually helped Sinclair and Overton kind of become intimate for the first time. So that was a pretty funny episode. Of course, Brian McKnight, of course, he appeared as himself as, of course, Max and Kyle broke up. So yeah, it was just some of the guest stars that appeared on the series. There were a lot, kind of like before they were stars in some cases. But yeah, that was a pretty sort of like a who's who back in the day. But yeah, that's actually pretty cool how that show kind of like paved the way for some of those stars before they were big stars.
Yeah, and I forgot this, and I watched the various vignettes over the weekend. Will Ferrell was a guest star on that show. Cheryl Miller, I think I remember this episode. Remember, if you know about Queen Latifah's story, she was on the basketball team at her high school before she started rapping, so there was a connection there. Also, too, Gladys Knight was a guest star on that show. Arsenio Hall, Mark Curry, Bradford Marcellus. We won't go through all the names here, but Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah, Rosie O'Donnell, of course, played Khadijah's friend. Grant Hill played it himself.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yes,
Khadijah's love interest, of course. He said, I remember he said that he gets like a lot of cues from that. Just as much as he does from his basketball, his commentating on basketball. So he gets called that a lot. But unfortunately, just like other hit sitcoms, they had their roadblocks too. There were some clashes between Queen Latifah and Kim Fields. Supposedly, that's why Kim Fields left halfway through the last season. Supposedly. These are just rumors. But they've patched things up and such, but at the time, the Kim feels up to go to future endeavors. But I mean, look, they look like most hit sitcoms, no matter what they are. I mean, they're not immune to drama. So, but they kept it pretty tame. We didn't find out about this till we saw all the various documentaries that have come out about it and such. So,
yeah,
they kept it professional, which is good, and it made up sense. So it turned out okay for the best.
Yeah, so it was a great representation of Black professionals because we haven't seen that before or since in a comedy realm. I remember John Hinton saw some of his stories on YouTube. He did some guest vignettes on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. That's how he's got his big break. He did a couple of spots for MTV at the time as he was trying to make the rounds, and that's how he got his job at Living Single. T.C. Carson had a movie out at the time. I forgot what it was called. But remember, for you young folks watching and listening, there was no social media, there was no internet, there was none of that back then. You had to listen to the radio, watch the TV, read newspapers and magazines to see what movies were coming out back then. You didn't have to download an app like you do now. But T.C. Carson, I didn't know this until I watched some of his stuff this morning. He was from Living Large. Thank you, Lamont. Living Large, yeah. And T.C. Carson's from Chicago. He went to the University of Illinois.
Yes, he did.
So a hometown guy making it big.
Yeah, so I did not. Yeah, I knew that about him. He actually grew up not too far from Champaign, so that was a Chicago guy. So that was did not know that about him until I saw they were actually explaining like as such. But it was really cool. But like I said, I mean, it was a great representation of like I said, Black professionals, 20-some professionals, especially going through living. Dating and all that stuff. I mean, of course, Max had her pregnancy scares. Sinclair and Overton were trying to figure out the right time to be intimate, for the first time. Look, Rachel wanted her like her rich millionaire. She did, Don Franklin, of course, Sequest amongst some of the other shows he appeared in. Of course, I think he's on a streaming show too, if I'm not mistaken, right now as we speak. But yeah, of course, he played 11 Avengers. Of course, she got her happy ending. Actually, all of them did. I mean, Khadijah, of course, Cress Williams, Black Lightning, a pre-Black Lightning, Cress Williams played her on Gaffigan boyfriend. Of course, they ended up getting happy as such. But yeah, I mean, it's on Hulu, it's on HBO Max, various other streaming services, so you can find it.
I think it's still on Bounce TV. I know TV One still re-airing it right now, yes. So you can catch it at various places.
Yeah, various places, but they actually, I remember this was last year when they would celebrate the 30th anniversary of the show. They said that they would be against doing a possible reboot.
Yeah, I saw the interview with Kim Coles. I actually watched it last night. You can go, if you're on YouTube, look it up. Kim Coles being interviewed by Kevin Frazier of Entertainment Tonight, and she said she wouldn't be against it. She's like, if the script is right and I'm getting paid right, I'll be up for it.
I'm wondering though, how would you do? Look, I'm sure if you pay her enough money, I'm sure you got to get Queen Latifah will make an appearance. She's busy doing the Equalizer now, which is a big hit for CBS. So I'm sure she'll probably make an appearance and such. But I know Kim Field's doing the Upshaws on Netflix. They just started their third season on Netflix. So you can check it out right now, streaming right now on Netflix. Yeah, I mean, what would you do there? Would it be like living married or like this kind of thing? Would someone be divorced?
That's true.
Something, we know Max and Kyle had a kid, the kid was a daughter on Half and Half. Do you kind of change that because a lot of people didn't watch Half and Half? So it'll be interesting, like how would you do that? How would you do a reboot? Do you do like a whole new version of it? Do you maybe just make them be the secondary characters? So it'll be interesting if they do a reboot, how would that work?
Yeah, and you have to center it around Overton and Sinclair's relationship, you would think.
Right. Because everybody, that was sort of like the big sell, the big draw. So would they have had kids by then? Would they be, maybe their kids are probably starting to kind of, go out on their own and such. I mean, enough time has passed, so they would probably be in their 20s right now. So
yeah, you would think.
Know. Yeah, you would think. I don't know. But yeah, we'll see if they do bring one. I know Yvette Lee Browser, who created this series, though she would be against it, but the timing hasn't been right. So, and then of course, the right script.
All right, our buddy Lamont says, leave it alone, let it stand as a great show. Well, as of right now, there's talks about it, but we'll see. Because I know there's a new generation, as I mentioned, they're watching it now, because I know it was airing on Bounce TV, and it's still airing on TV One, so we'll see what happens. If they do it right, I'm all for it, but if they, like you said, if they're not going to do it right, just leave it alone, like Lamont said.
And it's streaming like I said, it's streaming on Hulu, HBO Max. I know various other spots as well. So you can find it if you haven't looked at it, haven't checked out yet. You can find it, and such. So yeah. So our as we wrapped up Black History Month, Old School TV Monday, we salute the Fox hit sitcom Living Single.
Great job, Lakina. Great job.
Thank you. Okay, take us out, Sid.
All right. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Make sure you download our podcast at War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Don't forget to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time.
And of course, don't forget we are also on Roku TV. Of course, celebrate with a squad and give the program and join the winning team on Roku. Of course, you can whatever device you got, whether it's your phone, your Chromebook, your PC, whatever you have, it's all right there. Look it up on Roku on the App Store, and it's all right there. Our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, What's Up, Cuz? I know they're going to be talking about a lot of college hoops tonight as well. Also NBA as well tonight. So you can check them out at 6:00 right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Yep, for Lakina and for everybody who's been watching and listening to our program, thank you so much for the support. We greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to tell your friends, tell your neighbors, sound like Hulk Harrelson, tell everybody, including the haters, to listen to us and watch us on Sports Zone Chicago's Second City Sports.
All right, for stay dry out there, folks. I know it's been very rainy in some parts of here in Illinois and also other parts of the country too. So stay safe, stay dry, be good to each other. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
We are living single. Holla!
Yeah, and also too, Erica Allen did not do that dance. I know a lot of people have been saying that she did the dance. No, she did not. So we'll see you guys Friday. Do that one more time, Sid.
All right, we out.